Did you know that there are summer squashes and winter squashes? Well, now you do, and that a squash is a fruit. Now you know that too. I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein, coming to my kitchen as I show you some great dishes you can make with winter squashes. Today on SoFlo Taste.
This is South Florida. It's where I live and work. I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein. South Florida is more than sun, sand, and sea. It's a lifestyle of fashion, sound, culture, and of course, food. Food with taste from all over the world. Join me as we celebrate the food of South Florida
And the people who love it.
Join me as we experience SoFlo Taste.
Good morning, Taste Buds, and welcome to SoFlo Taste in the Goya Kitchen here at JA World in Coconut Creek. The calendar tells us it's autumn, though our palm trees scarcely notice. But autumn it is, so today I thought it would be fun to give you some of my best recipes for the wonderful, versatile, yummy, and autumny squash. So let's get cooking. And by the way, I'm keeping my social distance from everyone here, and they are all wearing masks, which I thank them for. Mwah, love you guys. All right, so we've got all kinds of squash. I mean, this is just so beautiful and exciting. Check out this spaghetti squash that we found this morning. So pretty. The first recipe I'm going to show you is I'm going to make a salad with delicata squash. And I love the delicata squash. First of all, it's really manageable. It cooks up really quickly. You can fill it, you can do anything to it. It's pretty much good every which way. But the best part about it is you don't have to peel it. The skin is almost just as delicious as the flesh. So all you have to do is cut it in half, and I like to cut it lengthwise, like so. And you take a spoon and then you scoop the seeds out. Like so. And that's that. So then you take this and you can slice it up in pretty much any old way. This is how I've done it today, in nice thin slices. So what I'm going to do with the delicata squash to make a really nice salad is that I'm going to take it and mix it with some finely chopped herbs. I have a little bit of thyme and rosemary chopped up really fine. They are fresh herbs. And I'm just going to add them to the squash, add some extra virgin oil, a little bit of salt, a little more salt, a little black pepper, and I always have sheet pans with a little bit of parchment around. You want to mix this. This is really the best way to mix it. And then throw it down onto your sheet. And squash, you can do two ways. Well, you can do a ton of ways, but I like to either cook it really high or really low to roast it nice and slowly. So this one, I'm gonna go high and it's gonna roast pretty quickly. This will only be 10 to 12 minutes. So I'm gonna throw that in the oven. And let's keep on moving. So the next squash I wanted to show you is something that we see a lot in the stores, a butternut. So butternuts are great, super versatile, delicious for soups. They get really creamy, they're so yummy. I'm gonna teach you how to roast a butternut squash. And the great thing about the butternut squash is that it's very fleshy and it's very rich. So it really loves warm spices, it really does. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to do that. First of all, you have the top part, which is completely seedless, and it goes to about right here. And you might find some seeds right on the bottom, which we'll cut out. And then I would cut this down into about 3 pieces. Great, and as you see, that was it. There's only about 5 seeds on that bottom part. And so go ahead and cut, and I call it the neck of the squash for obvious reasons. So I'm going to cut those 3 into 3 more lengthwise pieces, like so. And 1 more. And I find the butternut to be a little bit sweeter. The only thing about the butternut, though, is you cannot eat the skin. It's really waxy, really stiff, and you don't want to even try it. So let's cut that into larger pieces, maybe thicker pieces like so. and put that into a bowl. Now you can always use butter, ghee, your favorite types of oils. It's really up to you the kind of fat that you want to use, but I would always use some kind of fat. Coconut oil or butter is also really yummy too. But here I wanted the shine to be on the squash, not so much on the actual fat, which is why I'm just using some simple, very lightly flavored olive oil. So let's do that again. A little bit of oil. And then with the butternut, I like to add a little bit of brown sugar, not to the point where you say, wow, this is really sweet, just to the point where it brings out the natural sweetness in it. So just like so. Then a nice amount of salt. And the spices I love to use, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of cardamom, coriander, and just a tiny bit of nutmeg. And again, move this around. Let's use a spoon. And then we've got a cookie sheet here. Go ahead and throw them onto your pan. And we're gonna go high on this as well. So we're gonna go 400 on this one. Spread this out nice. So obviously the delicata is gonna be faster. The delicata will be 10 to 12 at the most on 400. These will probably take a good 25. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go the 10 minutes at 400. I'm gonna bring it down to about 350 and let it just go nice and slow the rest of the way. Come right back. We have so many things to do and so much to dig into with our delicious squasherias. See you in a minute.
SoFlo Taste will return right after this.
Now back to the Goya Kitchen at JA World and SoFlo Taste. Here's Chef Michelle Bernstein.
Welcome back to my show all about the squash. And remember, all my recipes are always available on the SoFlo Taste webpage. Here's an easier way to get to that page. Just point your phone camera at this quick response code, the little box that looks like it's in keeping with our theme today, a squashed barcode. It will then take you directly to the SoFlo Taste recipe page. Easy, huh? Now back to, is it squash or squashes? So this recipe is just yummy, and I know that a lot of people love spaghetti squash, but some people don't really know what to do with it. This is just to get away from your typical tomato sauce or bolognese. So this is a spaghetti squash. It's probably one of the most beautiful ones I've ever seen. This is what it looked like when it was raw. And we got it here locally, and all I did was I scooped it out exactly the same way I showed you from the first squash. I cooked it flesh side down for about 40 minutes, and then I flipped it over and I cooked it for about 10, and that's it. So what you want to do is, using a fork, you don't want to scrape it all up because you want to hold its shape. So I would say you're scraping up about 70 to 80% of the squash by doing this, but you really want the squash to keep, like I said, its beautiful shape. So we are gonna go back into it to warm it through. So what we're gonna do is, I've made a little bechamel, and I've made bechamel so many times on the show, I didn't think I had to make it again for you. So if you go back and look at the recipes that I've done throughout the years, you can find my bechamel recipe. Now this one is a Parmesan bechamel, so I'm adding some fresh grated Parmesan to the bechamel. And I'll go ahead and mix that up and let it melt. Now this bechamel I made for this happens to be a little thinner than usual, so I added a little more milk, and it's mainly because we're gonna be mixing it with squash. So let's go ahead and add the squash that I used the fork to pull out of the squash and put it into this bowl. And I'm using the same parchment paper and pan that I used to roast it. Why bother getting anything else dirty? Great. So now I'm gonna ladle in some of this Parmesan bechamel, little by little, until I feel like I've got enough. And go ahead and mix that. And you want to make sure you taste it. Now, my bechamel does have salt and pepper. I did salt, and I didn't even tell you, I'm sorry. I drizzled a little bit of oil and salt and pepper onto my squash before I roasted it the way I told you I did. But let's taste it and make sure that it has enough seasoning. Just a little bit more salt and a little bit more pepper. And I definitely get the Parmesan. I want like another quick bechamel in there. There we go. All right, mix that all one more time and then evenly divide the squash bechamel into the squash. Go ahead and smooth it out a little bit. And then we're gonna take some grated mozzarella cheese, or you can use some fresh sliced, it's up to you. And go ahead and cover the top like so. And we're gonna go ahead and put it into that really nice high 400-degree oven, let everything kind of melt. By that point, I can show you the delicata squash salad, so come right back, it's gonna be yummy. Welcome back to SoFlo Taste. We're here at JA World in Coconut Creek, a great place for our kids. For more of what goes on here at JA World, go to jasouthflorida.org or call 954-979-7100. Now back to the food. Okay, we've got all kinds of yummy stuff going on here. Check how beautiful this squash turned out. This is the delicata squash, and we're gonna make a little salad. But first, let me check on that spaghetti squash, and I think the butternut might be ready as well. Oh yeah. So look how beautiful that spaghetti squash is. I mean, this is just gorgeous. I'm very excited about that. I don't know about you, but I think me, and I think my kid, and I think my husband would dig right into that one. All right, the butternut, beautifully tender as well, because the color is just so pretty. And this is just a beautiful side dish. So you could just put this in a bowl, scrape it right in. I don't even know if this needs a topping, but this next to a piece of meat, a roast chicken, even fish, I mean, it's just delicious on its own. All right, so let's go ahead and make this salad together, because I think this is kind of fun. And you can change, you know, the variations of salad greens or cheeses. You can use a mozzarella or a burrata, but I have a weakness for fresh ricotta. And so I'm gonna put a couple spoonfuls of fresh ricotta, which I think would go beautifully with the crispiness of the skin of the delicata. And then, of course, our delicata squash, which one of my producers told me looks like little French fries, which I kind of agree. I mean, look how golden they are, and they're tender, and they're just delicious. And then, if you want to get crazy, you can add a couple of slices of prosciutto, like I have here. I'm in love with jamon serrano and prosciutto, and I think that this brininess of it, the saltiness of it, just makes salads more appealing. And then I'm just going to top it with a little bit of arugula, just as like a little topper, like so, to keep the mystery of everything that's underneath it, like that. And then just give it a good little drizzle of really good extra virgin oil. And then I have some beautiful aged balsamic from Modena that I keep in my cupboards. Tiny hint of pepper. I'm not going to salt it. The squash already has the salt. Just a little pepper. And there you have it. Two beautiful dishes, so quick. I made them right in front of your eyes. I can't think of anything more delicious. Come right back and we will make a delicious filling for a new kind of squash.
Hi, I'm design expert Elena Capra. Michelle will be right back. And don't forget, stay tuned for another episode of SoFlo Home Project following SoFlo Taste.
Welcome back to SoFlo Taste and our show all about yummy squash. I'm actually cutting some figs up for the next dish. So I found some beautiful fresh figs at the market. And if you can't find fresh ones, you can always use dried ones. Or this recipe will also be delicious with dried cranberries, cherries, dates, whatever it is you like. So I was just finishing this up. I've been cooking some mushrooms, and for the mushrooms, it doesn't matter what they are. This is cremini and shiitake, but you can use anything you like. And I started sauteing them in olive oil with just a little bit of tiny diced onions and garlic. And that is it so far. I'm now going to season them with a little bit of salt and pepper. So for this recipe, I have decided to use acorn squash, a good old squash, but new to us today because we haven't used it yet. And I did the same procedure as I did with the other squash. I cut it in half, I scooped it out. I rubbed it with a little bit of butter, salt and pepper. I cooked it flesh side down until it was nice and tender, about 45 minutes on 400. And then I flipped it over and cooked it for another 10-12 minutes just for it to get that beautiful golden color. Now the one thing we haven't talked about is soup. I mean, that's kind of an obvious for squash. And this is a sugar pumpkin, and this is a really wonderful squash to make with soup. But how do you make the best soup out of squash? You do this. So instead of cutting up the squash and peeling it and throwing it in water or chicken stock, what I would do is exactly this. I would brush it with a little bit of butter, but I would add a little bit of brown sugar and salt in there, and I would cook it exactly the way I've been cooking it all day. And when it's really soft, then you scoop it all out and you have that wonderful flavor, and you can add that to some warm vegetable or chicken stock and maybe a little hot cream and puree it. Then you already have the taste of a roast squash. You're not kind of faking it with, just blanching a squash or boiling it. You have a lot more flavor going on. All right, so these mushrooms are cooked. I thought it would be interesting, rather than the typical rice, to actually add some wheat berries. I love wheat berries, or farro, any of those yummy things, bulgur. So I cooked this in just some vegetable broth. You can use chicken stock, you can use water if you want to. And I just cooked it according to the package. And I'm just gonna mix in some of the wheat berry into my mushroom and warm it through. And then I have the same herbs that I used on the delicata. I have some finely chopped rosemary and thyme fresh, and I'm just gonna add some of that in there as well. So here we have, onions and garlic, all those great aromatics, those fresh herbs, the mushrooms to make it really earthy, and then of course the filler is the wheat berry. And I just wanted to add something to make it a little lighter. So that's why I'm adding the fresh fig to this mixture. I originally thought dried fig, but because I found the fresh one, I thought that that would be really delicious. And as you know, squash is a fruit. So why not add another fruit into the mix? So I'm cutting these in just any old way. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be too small because they're so yummy. And there we have it. So let's mix that up. And if you want to add a little more oil, you can to this point. I think it's just gorgeous the way it is. And go ahead and fill your squash. Now, if you wanted to use more wild rice with this, because that would be a little more seasonal, you can do that, but I love the lightness of that wheat berry. I think it's just yummy. Oopsies. So you can eat the skin of the acorn squash, and if you can hear it, it's crispy. It's crispy, crunchy. It's really good. So you can eat this whole thing. You don't have to leave the skin part. So there we have it. We have gorgeous squash. Not that you need any more crunchy because you have the skin to be crunchy, but We have some beautiful sliced almonds here that we toasted in the oven, and we thought that that would be a really nice topping. And what a great meal. I mean, it's healthy, it's rich, it's filling, but it's so delicious and it's so seasonal. With autumn in the air, winter squash should be in your culinary bag of tricks. Squashes are a wonderful fruit. Yep, they're fruit. Next week, I'm giving you a gift. If you've had people on your holiday gift list who are hard to buy gifts for, you better watch, because I'm making gifts of food, and I guarantee they're gifts no one will return. That's next time here on SoFlo Taste. Now let's get a look in from Elena Capra. Good morning, Elena. What are you doing today on SoFlo Home Project?
Hi, Michelle, and happy Halloween. You are going to love today's episode. We've got a whole lot of things that you can do to celebrate Halloween during COVID, from games to fun decor and even a drive-through haunted experience. It's going to be spooktacular.
That looks scary, Elena. Better than me. Happy Halloween, my dear. Ugh. And taste buds, happy Halloween to you. Please be smart, be safe, and be well tonight and always. And I'll see you next week. Goodbye, good Halloween, mwah, and good taste. Squash or squashes?